I'm so happy that we are here, and I'm so thrilled that you were able to generously donate this work for the Christie's auction. So I would love to take this chance to really unpack the ideas behind the work, and maybe you can tell me a bit more about it.
Well, so the work I'm going to donate is Flower Kid Girl, and the work is really about the colonial exploitation as that relates to African identities generally, but it's also about what that exploitation did to the African environment. It's a little girl wearing a Victorian dress made out of African textiles. She's holding these endangered flowers. It's a very beautiful piece, but it's also quite complex because it's layered and it's making that link between what's happening to our environment now, so the kind of Victorian industrialization period, and what the thirst and hunger for resources did to the African continent, and also what it did to African identities generally.
I remember when I first saw one of your works and being so, enamored by that use of textile, and it's present in this work, so I'm really excited about that.
So the textiles I use in my work is batik, and those are Indonesian-inspired fabrics produced by the Dutch and then sold to the African market. The fabrics also, after independence in most African countries, became a sign of kind of African identity or independence. But I was quite fascinated by that because I always imagined that the fabrics were indigenous African fabrics, but actually, this is an import into Africa. But it's also interesting from the African perspective, the appropriation of those fabrics. I use those fabrics because they become a metaphor for the relationship between Europe and Africa. But also, the work does ask a question about what is sculpture? What can sculpture be? Does everything have to look like a Rodin, or do we have other ways of actually making sculpture? Can we take a craft element, quote unquote, might be considered a popular type of fabric? Can we then use that in our art? So then, can I incorporate aspects of quote unquote African identity into our contemporary art practice and change what we accept into the mainstream as art?
That sentiment about what we accept into the mainstream is really interesting, because whenever I see these fabrics, I start to think about why they are missing from, some of these history of fabrics.
The question of taking up space and being visible is something I'm very passionate about. And I think that, presence is very important. It's important that we start to bring aspects of our own identity into contemporary discourse.
It's such an incredible piece to donate, especially as it really resonates with some of the ideas and mission points that we have at MOWAA.
What the museum is trying to do is amazing, and it's something that I support wholeheartedly. It's essential. There's an institution that's actually made for local people in their own way, on their own terms. And I believe very strongly myself in building institutions there and being in charge of our own institutions.
I'm really excited for the Nigerian Pavilion at Venice Biennale next year. I think it's really meaningful to have you involved. It will really be a moment for people to really understand who we are, and also to challenge preconceptions or misconceptions about what African art is and can be. What are you looking forward to with this project?
Well, I think, the Nigerian Pavilion in Venice is going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the diversity, and I think the choice of artists is highly imaginative because the range of work is so diverse. It's a show that will smash stereotypes about Nigeria and Nigerian artists and the Nigerian diaspora. So yes, it's incredibly exciting.